think we is ready to go live.
Hey, we live. Hey, land back, y'all. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Revolutionary Book Trap.
Welcome to the Revolutionary Book Trap. It's November, y'all. I hope y'all set your clocks backwards. Colonialism said, go back an hour. And so they want us to comply. But we don't comply here in Black Hammer. But you still got to be on time.
Something like that. You know, we live in a dual world, but we're ready to build the new one, right? We're ready to make sure that, you know, old one dies and the new one comes into being.
Yes. Land back, Pat.
Land back, man.
Good morning. Come to the room. When you come into the room, share. Make sure you like the video, like and love the video, and share. Get those reactions up. Get those shares up.
Like, share.
And hashtag share when you shared it.
Yes, please. Yes, please. You know, we fundraising to build a city. Hashtag Hammer City. No cops, no Rona, no rent, and no white people. All Black and brown people building a new world for ourselves. You know, showing our people what it looks like to tap into the power of organization. Right, we are not outnumbered on this burning planet. We are out organized, and so what we're doing here at Black Hammer Organization is to get our people organized. Right, we're uniting colonized people of all nations, of all colonized nations, you know, across the world to come together and really build that self-determination, to tap into our leadership, right? Our fourth point of unity is so important. It is only the colonized proletariat that can and will lead the revolution to smash white power, colonialism, capitalism, imperialism, all its symptomatic offspring, y'all. So share. Political education is so important in order to get our people united to that anti-colonial line, in order to get working on that anti-colonial action and organization to build a city.
Yeah, for real, exactly. Landback Ren, Landback Britt, welcome, good morning. Nice to see you up in here. Landback welcome.
Everybody here right on time.
I know, because they're ready to get this political education. You know, like this election is in 2 days, y'all. It's in 2 days. People are ready. People are ready to get what they need, to be prepared, to be ready to protect themselves. As you know, white power starts crumbling even more. Landback Stevie.
Which sector of the white ruling class will win this round? That's all it's about.
It's just entertainment, right? It's just entertainment, right? Watching them fight and crumble and destroy each other, right? While we are out here on the side organizing ourselves, while they try to figure out, you know, which ruling side is going to, you know, keep stealing. It's like while they figure that out, we gotta organize and smash that
business. We're just out here trying to mind our damn business, build our damn city. We're just trying to grow our gardens, you know, teach our children, you know, grow our scientific knowledge and application.
Exactly. And that feels so good. Wouldn't that feel good, y'all? Like if you think that would feel good to have a city where you could just you know, grow your food, pick your food from the tree, like GT would be saying, she can't wait to go out there and just pick that mango off that tree. And just, you know, not have to worry about white power intruding on your daily life. You don't have to worry about colonialism intruding in your daily life. Land back, Makeda. Hey, nice to see you here.
Land back, Black Power. Yes. I'm super excited for Hammer City, just to be able to really concretely build, you know, build that new world that we've been imagining for so long, you know, and not to say that, you know, our ancestors have been struggling to build it. And, you know, we live in that world that they've built, but it continues to be a dual world where colonialism, you know, is still a contradiction, even as much as our ancestors have, you know, taken some very serious blows at it. You know, there's still work to be done. You know, what was started must be finished, like our commander-in-chief said in that amazing speech in Chicago. Finish what you started, right? Don't
stop. It's don't stop and always move forward, right? And that's something that the young lords really understood, was moving forward. Land back, Rosie. Hey, all these people coming into our BookTrap. I love it.
If you want an amazing coffee mug like I got right here, visit bhobazaar.com. All proceeds go towards building Hammer City. You can sip on a nice mug of coffee in your morning political education each Sunday.
Yeah. And speaking of proceeds, Chishegun, why don't we try to get some donations in for Hammer City? Let's start off before we get started into the Young Lord's Reader. You know, we're about to get into chapters 5 and 6. So you should be getting that out, chapters 5 and 6 on your PDF that you got from the library.
Get your read that ready.
Yeah, and so exactly. You have your read that back ready. So while you're getting all that settled, why don't you also donate to Hammer City? So CashApp, Venmo, you can do BuildHammerCity, GoFundMe.com/BuildHammerCity. You know, we reached 40K. We reached 40K, y'all. Like,
that's amazing.
We're still winning. We're still winning. We getting those funds. We getting those funds from the people. Land back, McCall. We getting these funds because people believe in this, right? And so before we get started, let's try to get a couple of donations in. Let's try to get a couple of people to show their support, to show that you know that we winning. All right. So if you know that we winning, what can I get? What can we get?
5, maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe 30, maybe $1. That's fine. Every dollar counts. Every cent counts. You know, it's so that we can tap into our own people. Just how much we do raise from our own people. Like our people believe in, you know, the work that we're doing. They believe in putting their dollars, you know, that they are slowly accumulating in the, you know, colonial capitalist plantation, you know, putting that toward not just surviving under colonialism, not just paying your rent, not just paying your phone bill, but really trying to invest in something real, tangible, for a future that's worth living, you know, a future worth thriving in, which is what we're doing, y'all. Yeah. We got to go 150. That's all right, Chief.
We got to go 150. Yeah, Nick got 5 on that. Nick is ready to help us get to our goal. Thank you, sir. We know colonialism got us broke. I understand. I understand. But you know, we understand that we have something to build, and so that's the power of colonized people, right? That no matter like how much we're suffering, we put all of ourselves as much as we can into achieving freedom, into achieving a new world for ourselves, because we know that it ain't enough just to be broke and suffering. At least we could be broke and free, right? and build from there, right? So,
if you're white and you're watching, if you're a colonizer and you're watching, don't just get this political education and go about your day. Donate $5, donate $10, donate 20, 30, you know, whatever you got, or at the very least, share. I know you got $1. I know you got $1.
Yeah. Land back. Thank you, Alex. Got 25. Yeah.
What is that? 25, 26, 27? That's 27. We're already what? I don't know how to do that, man. But our goal is 150 for today. So whatever 150 minus 27 is, that's all we got left.
Yeah. Yeah, we closer to it. We already closer to it. So thank you all for who have donated already. And if you are watching the BookTrap and you feel inspired to donate to Hammer City during it, go ahead, drop that comment in there. Let us know that, hey, you know what? Like that read that back really like inspired me. You know what? I think I'm ready to donate to the revolution. So go ahead and put those comments in there as we keep on going. Yes. But I guess we should get started.
Let's do it.
We're already deep into this book. We're in chapters 5 and 6. We're really, really deep into it now. Like y'all, we kind of already got in the history of the island, the history of the Young Lord's Party, the history of all this. Oh, hey, land back I just saw that. I gotta acknowledge that. Yes, $10. Thank you, Chief I. Yeah, we've been getting all this history all this whole time. And now in these chapters, we're kind of seeing how this history and like what the young lords have learned manifests in their work, right? And exactly like how they kind of like approach their work and like how they approach revolution based off the history that they know, right? And
okay.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, reading off your notes here, chapter 5 and chapter 6. One was about education. One was about armed struggle. It really reviews the movements and the words of the student movement, while also kind of stressing the importance, stressing the importance of education, of community education. You know, we got a couple of pieces talking about the high schools and putting in principals with Puerto Rican students' interests in mind, or teachers that were, bringing that revolutionary talk to the students and leading to their own, uprisings against the colonial school system. But also gets into, in that other chapter 6, about revolutionary nationalism. the trajectory of armed struggle and the futility of unpolitical struggle, including elections. Would you look at that?
Mm-hmm.
Relevant.
I know, perfect timing, right? They talk about the futility of elections, and right when this really fool of an election is about to happen. But yeah, let's get into our first read that back, because like Chief Shiga was talking about, they really start talking about education and the importance of community education. And if y'all go to page 128, right? The young lords in their newspaper Parlante, this is what Richie Perez, who's the information captain of the party, they write, the issue at Franklin, which was a high school in the South Bronx, the issue at Franklin is not just a matter of a principle. It's a matter of whether or not we have the right to control our own lives. The existing structure has shown through their practice that they are not going to move against the high dropout rates and overcrowding of schools in our communities, while at the same time, they would not let these conditions exist in their own communities. If they are not going to do their job, we'll have to take it into our hands. Yes. Ooh, that sounds exactly like principle of unity number 1 here at Black Hammer, right? Like principle of unity number 1 is that colonized people need dictatorship over our land, lives, labor, and resources. And so, like, I like how they realize here that just because they get a new principal doesn't mean the school is all of a sudden a revolutionary institution, right? Like, I think it's important to know that, because people sometimes say, oh, if we have a new person in charge, then things will be better.
The same existing structure, right?
The same institution, the same structure, but if there's just a different person at the helm, at the front, steering the ship, then everything's going to be okay. But the young lords knew that wasn't the case, right? They wanted a new principal because they wanted someone to at least acknowledge what was going on, right? So the young students were like hoping that someone can acknowledge what's going on in the school, but that ain't enough. Right. It ain't enough to acknowledge what's going on. You have to actually have a new revolutionary trajectory. You have to have a new way of living and creating that actually gives you out of the conditions that you want recognized, right? It's not enough
right? These baby steps aren't enough, but it's also important. I think it's like, right, like we know that we need the masses in order to make history, right? We know that we need the masses in order to make revolution. And so part of winning the masses who are so inundated with bullshit, colonial, neo-colonial propaganda that says that you can, change the system, reform the system, these sort of moments where there is slight, where there is change that does seem to have like some type of immediate effect, but is not enough. Like the failures of those changes to actually taking us to the finish line is important for the people to see, like the bankruptcy of the system, right? Because the people are like, invested in this idea of reform. Like our people have to see that reform doesn't work, and so like part of that, that's part of why we like learn this history too, right? Is to look back and see, see the struggles of those who came before us and how they have tried to attempt these kind of like minor changes and how it hasn't worked and how they had to turn to more, revolutionary practices. And, that's why this kind of political education and this kind of revolutionary history is erased from the schools, right? So that we don't learn those patterns, so that we repeat the same mistakes that we made, right? So I don't want to be misheard. Like I'm saying like, oh, it's actually really important to push, reforms and then like watch them fail so that the people can see that they fail. Yeah. But that, that it's happened, like it's been going on, that those failures have happened over and over in our history. And so studying it is really important. Again, to winning the masses to unity with anti-colonial revolution as the only solution. And, none of that reform shit's gonna work.
Yeah, no, exactly. We have to, really realize that the failures of these institutions is not because we like push them to fail. They're designed to fail because they aren't for the people, right? That's why we see white power crumbling. Of course, we're gnawing at it and eating at it, but because of this mass death machine that colonialism is, that basically it's going to implode on itself. Because we see with this election, these sides of white power are fighting. They are trying to see who is going to control the thievery, who's going to control the stolen resources. And as they do it, they eat at each other. And so as they do that, we have to get in there and kind of create something that is for us. They say, Richie Perez at the end of this, he says, if schools don't function for us, they shouldn't function at all, right? If schools don't function for us, they shouldn't function at all. If these institutions don't function for us, if they're not for us, then we don't reform them. We get rid of them. We get rid of them, right? And so, so yeah, and really, that's something that the young lords understood. They were saying that if it's not working for us, we have to take complete control of it. We have to have complete dictatorship over it. Like we saw in the movie Trap, how they took the TB test truck, right, that wasn't being used by the city to test for tuberculosis, and they say, hey, what? You ain't using it. We asked, you ain't using it. We're gonna take it. Right, and test our people. So they just took it into their own hands. That's what we constantly have to do. They didn't say, okay, how do we change the TB test schedule, or, all that kind of stuff.
They didn't take it and say, how do we get to make sure that this is legal and registered within the whatever TB truck department? I don't know what state is over that shit, but you get what I'm saying.
Exactly. And so I think another read that back that kind of goes with that idea that you have to completely let go of anything that was before and come up with something new to have a really revolutionary trajectory is on page 135, and this was in Felipe Luciano's kind of talking about colonialism's effect, right, in Puerto Rico. And he says, we can't win the revolution with rice and beans, right? We can't win the revolution with rice and beans unless you poison it and give it to the next pig who comes to one of our restaurants. With cultural nationalism, Puerto Ricans will be playing congas in the joint, right? We can't win revolution with rice and beans. We can't win revolution with woke principles. Like it's not about just knowing what's right or knowing how colonialism affects us or knowing what our culture is, right? Like that's not enough. What we have to do is make our culture and make our education something that constantly gnaws at white power and constantly gnaws at colonialism. If it's not doing that, then we're just scratching at it, right? No, we have to cut it from underneath. And it has to every single thing has to be a blow. Every single thing we do, every single thing we say, every single thing that we act on, every single dollar that we raise for Hammer City, all has to be a blow. And each one of those, like we said, each one of our action items, each one of these is a blow to white power, to colonialism. And so if you all you're doing is talking about being to be Puerto Rican is to make sure that we are having our foods and having our language. It's not just that, right? And what is our language? The Spanish colonial language? No. It's about making sure that we are constantly at war with colonialism until it ends, right? And that should be our culture. That should be our revolutionary culture.
Exactly, right. It means using culture as a weapon. Said we have to be making blows at colonialism at every step of the way. And if if we don't have sharp tools, right, like this idea of just kind of embracing our customs or our traditions, right, in this kind of static way of it's like this half baked, like I see that colonialism has stripped us of our culture. So in order to fight colonialism, we're going to reconnect with our culture. Yes, but we can't allow for these kind of like defanged versions of embracing our culture that the white power system is perfectly okay with and sanctioning. Like, yeah, great, have your culture night, have your come to the school and you can have your rice and beans and your pupusas and this and that. It's just this again a defanged version of a weapon, right? Like our culture has to be a weapon. I think there's a quote from this Black Panther book talking about or it's the Black Panther themselves talking about like our culture must smash the skull of like the oppressor. It must it talks about like gold dust splatting everywhere, that it has to be something that's repulsive to the master, and that if it's not, then it's blunted. It's not revolutionary, right? We're about building revolutionary culture at Black Hammer all day.
Exactly, yeah. It all has to lead to dictatorship over our land, lives, labor, and resources. If it's not leading toward that, then it's you're right. It's a defanged culture. It's a muted culture, and we're not trying to be muted. We're not trying to be silent, right? We're trying to establish our dictatorship and power over our own stuff. So if what you're doing ain't doing that, then you got to change your method. You got to change your method. You got to change your tactic. If that's not what's going on. And part of changing your tactic is joining a revolutionary organization, right? Like Black Hammer. So if you are ready to change your tactic, if you're ready to change up exactly how you approach getting power and dictatorship over your landlines, labor, and resources, join Black Hammer at Black Hammer.
I know y'all have all sorts of amazing cultural knowledge, amazing insight into our indigenous, ancestors' practices, pre-colonial, anti-colonial during the process of colonialism. Our people build revolutionary culture, and we got all sorts of, colonized peeps out here with knowledge of all sorts of amazing aspects of our culture that can be used individually on your own, or they can be used collectively in an organization to really politically educate people and unite them with, the power of our indigenous cultures to be weaponized again in organization in order to build for our dictatorship, right? So that we can continue to build a world and continue to forward our history that was completely interrupted, right? Our history and our culture that was completely distorted and thrown off guard by colonialism and continues to today, right? We're trying to get back on that path. We're not trying to go backward. We're forever going forward, right? But we are reigniting the flame of like our history and our culture to be back under our dictatorship. So
yes, for real. So like if you agree with this, if you are trying to push your understanding of this, like interact with us in the comments, tell us, exactly like what you saw in this chapter, especially with like the cultural nationalism, right? Like exactly how can we win without just rice and beans? And how we can really make sure that, like Chief Shagun was saying, bringing up, like smash the skull, use our culture to smash the skull of colonialism, of white power.
Period. Yes, do save your read that backs though. Save your read that backs for the end. We'll have a portion. We had to put those in the comments. We could chop it up. But on that note, let's go on to our second, or maybe it's a third. Yeah, our second read that back. It's another one from the chapter on schools. I really appreciate this and relate to this section. It says, in Edison, another school in the area, the students had a slightly different problem. In this school, it was the administration that wanted a teacher taken out. They wanted Muhammad Togani removed because he was teaching the true history of racist America. The school system wants to play down the fact that every time America has dealt with third world people, it has reacted the same way. The Indians were killed for their land. The Chinese were used as slave labor to build the West Coast. Chicanos were exploited to build the Southwest. The Japanese were killed by an atomic bomb and were put into concentration camps here in America during World War II. Black people were brought to this country in chains and have systematically been killed and abused for 400 years. Puerto Ricans have been used as a source of cheap labor. And now that new technology is eliminating the need for unskilled labor, we're being killed off. These are the things that this country doesn't want students to know. Because when we find out the truth, we're going to kick their lying asses. After the students at Edison showed that they wanted to hear the truth, the frightened school system got an injunction to prevent any young lord or Muhammad Togani from speaking in or around any Philadelphia school, period. That school, any Philadelphia school. But they're fools. You can never stop an idea whose time has come or a people who have been awakened. Land. I really appreciate this quote just for exposing really at the end there, like what the response to trying to bring that revolutionary history and culture into what's Chiefly say? Yeah, literally white people use segregation to destroy colonized people in the earth, while colonized people have always been open to help other colonized people. Yeah, I think that was a comment addressing maybe some other comment before where someone said like about us, like, oh, if you want to, how do you want to switch from segregation, like us being segregated to Hammer City being segregation? But that's not how that works. You know what I mean? Like our dictatorship over our own land, lives, labor, and resources, of course, is an affront to white people and, an entire system that's built off of our backs, right? Taking that back is this like, blow to them, but it's not quite segregation, y'all. We have to, it's us taking back control over our own shit, right? It's not us having dictatorship over anything that doesn't belong to us already in the first place. So anyway, back to this quote. Sorry, I got a little distracted there. But right, it just right. What was so informative or instructive in that quote is how how the white power colonial system reacted when you did have this one, little person in a school trying to ignite the flame and reveal that revolutionary history, reveal that gross colonial history to the people and to the students. How much that is not allowed, like that won't it's not sustainable to try to build that kind of system within a colonial system, right? Like, salute to that teacher, Muhammad Tagani, right, for bringing that revolutionary history and culture to those students. And like it said, even as the system clamped down, like, those students are forever changed, right? Those students are forever like awakened and will start to take it further, right? But I think the informative lesson there is that taking it further doesn't mean trying to make all of the colonial school systems, if we could just get a bunch more Muhammad Taganis in the schools teaching more revolutionary history. Like, no, we see how it reacts. We see how it clamps down. We see how it completely is designed to what's the word? Douse that fire. At least within those spaces. Again, it can't be doused, like the people have to be brought back to sleep, but they can be coerced back into dead end ways of addressing that problem. And one of those dead end ways is to try to, like, again, reform these school systems. Like, you could imagine today, like you see today, there's all sorts of this like anti-racist curriculums in school on the 16th in school. Like, we have to see it as this neo-colonial it's an attempt to shift the schools to a more or less directly colonial. We're just not going to teach you shit about your revolutionary history and culture. We're going to teach you all the bullshit from coming from white power, to this more neo-colonial. Oh, okay, we'll talk about racism. We'll maybe even talk about colonialism. We'll talk about sexism. We'll talk about all these different intersections and and we'll talk about your oppression. But again, never to actually lead you to the conclusion of the fact that, wait, no, we need dictatorship over our land, lives, labor, and resources. That includes our schools, right? This makes me think of that third point of unity, that all of our problems come from colonialism and the submissive neo-colonialists within our colonized nations. And again, it makes me think of the schools and their role in trying to respond to this kind of resistance. They try to shift into this, oh, okay, yeah, we'll allow this kind of stuff to go on in our halls, but it's not, it's always to keep us from getting to that ultimate conclusion that we need dictatorship over all of our shit.
Yeah, and not just about leading us to the conclusion, but also leading us to organize around that conclusion. I think sometimes people who are teachers who might already have arrived at the conclusion and are trying to teach that conclusion to their students, still don't lead them to organize around that conclusion, right? Or to join the organization. And so, so teachers always have to be careful about this, right? Share this with a teacher, right now. Share this video with a teacher right now that so that they see this, especially if they call themselves a revolutionary educator, right? It's not just about leading the students to conclusion, but if you are leading them to organize around that conclusion, that means you are actually leading them to act on it. And so many teachers who don't do that become like that intellectual class, right? That intellectual class that knows the right answer, but doesn't act on the right answer. Right. And so it's not enough to be right. It's not enough to be correct. It's not enough to know that colonialism is the center of all of our problems, is the cause of all our problems. To know that is not enough. Right. And Black Hammer, to know that is not enough. That's why we have action items. That's why we work. That's why we do things. And that's why
sorry.
We'll say that one more.
I was going to say, that's why we have a whole curriculum committee, right, dedicated to building an anti-colonial youth curriculum that can be, the basis of a system that is completely separate from, this entire colonial system, right? We're building a city. That means we're building, an entirely new way of living on every single level of society. And that includes schools, most importantly. So if you're interested in building that anti-colonial revolutionary, curriculum and culture, and not towards, putting all of that, if you do know that stuff, right, it is valuable, but don't then, put yourself in a situation where the colonial system can leech on that, can prey on that and say, ooh, okay, how can we use this to, draw them in closer to trying to reform the system, trying to make it seem like it can be wokety woke. Like, nah, we got to split from that. We got to start to build the foundations of an entirely different, system, right? We're trying to build a dual and contending power. So.
Yeah, for real. Because teachers have such valuable skills in bringing that forward, but we can't let we can't let the skills we can't just it can't just be about teaching our true history and the solution, right? Like Kolibri says here, the world will be a better place if we have our true history and the solution to getting our power back and our land back, but we have to make sure that in that teaching we are organizing and getting action behind it, or else we just, that petty boo, like intellectual class, right? That just, like, I heard colonialism is the cause of everything. Didn't you hear that too? Oh, yes, it is. Oh, you're so right. Like we're not just having conversations about that, right? You saw how I got all like English. I don't know. That's what I think of. I think of petty boo, like intellect.
Yeah, it's a discrimination, colonial culture. That's exactly what the schools are for, to teach you that accent and to teach you that accent means intellect. All that.
Right, exactly. I know. Like colonialism gets in our minds like crazy, right? That way. But yeah, I think the young lords, they really understood that political education is going to be the first core, the first phase of making sure that people are on the side of organization, so they can fight for the revolution. And without that political education, an army of people does not function. It doesn't work. They need that guide. They need that skeleton, that framework, in order to actually carry out the struggle, to carry out action.
Period. Yes. So donate. If you believe in that kind of, revolutionary political education as the guide to our revolutionary action. That's what we do here at Black Hammer. We got 4 simple points of unity, that are the bedrock of our organization. That is the bedrock of what we're, hammering out here in terms of political education. Every dollar helps, every dollar counts, toward Hammer City, towards building, again, that dual system where we can really systematize this concretely with the masses of our people from all sorts of different nations coming together. So donate today, y'all. Donate today.
Yeah.
There it is. You know what to do.
Yeah, let's get more donations in. If you're feeling frustrated because you have like colonizers trying to like tell you what to do with your own life and your own land and resources right now or before, if you are ready to build for Hammer City, to build for our own people, let's get some more donations in. I know some of y'all are riled up. I be looking at comments too. Some of y'all are riled up. Use that anger, use that energy you got right now to contribute to the solution that will bring you liberation and freedom. So CashApp, Venmo, BuildHammerCity.
If you're an educator out there, you was about to spend $25 on some workshop for anti-racist education, and today, throw that away. Don't throw that away. Throw away the application or whatever the hell it is, and put that $25 towards something real, tangible, and long-term, right? Long-term solutions over all of this short-term, opportunistic, reforms. We got to really think long-term. We got to think big because we got big problems on our hands, y'all.
Yeah. I'm about to put $5 on it myself because I believe in it. Guys, like Chief So was saying, I ain't got that much.
I'm gonna do the same as a fellow educator, Chief Oju. I'm gonna put 10 on it.
Yes. Who's gonna match our $5 or $10? Who's gonna match us? Who's gonna contribute to the revolution to Hammer City and match us? Who wants to do that? Because we at 52, we a third of the way there. Let's try to get at least 2/3 of the way there. Who can contribute to our Hammer City?
Let's get another 5, another 1, another 2, another 3. Anything counts, y'all.
And you gotta make sure too that if you feel like you can't donate now, you can also pledge.
You can always pledge.
Yeah, if you can't give that dough right now, you can give it later. So if you want to pledge $10, pledge $5 that you can give later this week, that's fine too. We'll follow up with you, make sure to check in and see. Hey, okay, we got 10 on it. Yeah, if you need to donate later, that's okay. We know we colonized. We know that it ain't easy just to be dropping cash, real quick. But hey,
hell yeah! All right, that's the energy we needed to keep it pushing for this political.
I know, for real. Like it's like electricity. It like actually makes me want to keep going. I'm like, where's the money? I need Hammer City. Where is it?
And back. Let's go to this third. Read that back. I believe it's on page 169 of the PDF.
Yes.
Let's see what
it's on page 152 of the book.
Right.
So this chapter, in chapter 6, there's a few sections about armed struggle, and they kind of like talk about the young lords kind of talk about the history of armed struggle in Puerto Rico and Boriken, and how and also the history of armed struggles in other places and other anti-colonial movements, and how that's kind of impacting their understanding of what kind of armed struggle that they should participate in. Oh, man, people got 5 on it. Hey.
Yeah. Thank you.
And this quote right here about one of the first armed struggles against colonialism in Boriken, I think I think it says a lot about the importance of the people and their role in armed struggle. So it says, but in all wars, the goal is the same: preserve oneself and destroy the enemy. Preserve oneself and destroy the enemy. Oneself not meaning a single person. Oneself meaning collective, right? Just clarifying for the people, all revolutionaries at some point or another have to confront the problem of war. First, will they fight it or not? If they do not, we move backward and not forward. If they do, they must decide on the nature and forms of the war. If they understand that only through war can we resolve the problems that we can't resolve through peace, that only through war can we ensure peace in the future, then they set about the work. In Puerto Rico, no one has ever believed that we could defeat the United States in the war. Betances, this is Ramon Emeterio Betances, who was responsible for the anti-colonial rebellion against Spain at first. Betances believed the Puerto Rican people could defeat Spain in war. The great patriot Ramon Emeterio developed a policy, a plan to establish the Republic of Puerto Rico and defeat Spain militarily. But the plan put too much emphasis on technology and not enough emphasis on the people, the ones who would take part in the war. It showed that Betances had an understanding of the skill of a certain type of war, the type of war Spain had been fighting for years and had taught him to fight. It showed that he at least had a basic understanding of the conditions of Puerto Rico, where the people were strong and the Spanish were weak. But because it assumed that all the people were educated and prepared to fight for independence, the plan failed. An armed struggle without the people involved is not a revolution. It's a coup, a change of powers from one group of professional politicians to another. What we need in Puerto Rico, what we need in the United Snakes, what all people who are oppressed throughout the world need are long, thorough revolutions that put the people in power. Revolutions that give the people the power to control their own lives. So again, our first principle of unity coming up, right? Like revolution has to be about putting the power back in the people's hands to control our own lives and our own land and resources and our own labor. And then I think that's what Ramon Emeterio Betances and his movement they didn't understand. They assumed that the people were ready just because they saw the conditions. They assumed that the people knew their conditions, right? Because just because you're a slave doesn't necessarily mean that you politically understand completely why you're a slave or how to not be a slave, right? You need the knowledge of your own self and to come back to your true self so that you can fight for that true self. If you don't know who your true self is, then what are you fighting for if you come up into an armed struggle, right? That's just adventurism. Land backpack. If you don't know who your true self is, then how do you know what you're fighting for, right? You're not always just fighting against something. You're also fighting for something. So you're fighting against the colonizer, but you're fighting for your own humanity. You're fighting for your own freedom. So you have to understand what that humanity and freedom is going to look like. You have to understand what you want it to be, so that when you do engage in armed struggle, that the people are all on the same page, are all on the same side, and are united to that fight. And Ramon Emeterio Betances, the people weren't united to the fight because the people weren't told anything, right? You can't just have a few people say, "Hey, y'all, we're gonna have a revolution this Saturday. Like, come meet us this Saturday for the revolution." It don't work like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, that first line, and like you were clarifying, like it has to be for oneself, and it's about understanding oneself. Like you say, our true self, not your like individual colonial capitalist constructed individual self, but really understanding on that anti-colonial line who you are, who your like what your own material interests are, how they connect with the material interests of the masses of colonized, poor and working class people across the globe. Like it's that political education to awareness of who you are, that's so important to get, you know, our masses united to in the first place, to be able to, you know, wage, like I said, it's like a long and protracted revolutionary struggle that needs to be guided. It needs to be guided by principles, by again, like knowledge of who we are. And that is one of our principles, number 4, right? That we know that the true proletariat, right? And the proletariat is supposed to be that class which is the revolutionary class to completely overturn, you know, the contradictions that are at the core of all of our problems, that the only true proletariat is the colonized proletariat, right? And that it's only through our leadership that you know, white power, colonialism, capitalism, imperialism, and all of the symptomatic offspring, all of the different, you know, complex ways in which we are oppressed. The only way that can truly be overturned is with the leadership of the masses. And so it's so important to get the masses on board with that political line, right? And so if you try to move ahead of that pace, if you try to move toward, you know, armed struggle without really having the political unity of the masses, you're not going to be able to engage in that prolonged and protracted struggle, right? Which is like it's a long and hard struggle. It requires the energy of the masses, passionate and like ready to really engage in that life or death battle, and understanding that it really is a life or death battle, you know, even for those who can think, oh, well, maybe in my own little like petty boo, you know, material benefits from this neo-colonial that I can get out of it, like really seeing beyond that short-term interest and going, nope, long-term, like, we are, you know, like we are, our destiny is tied in with the masses of colonized, poor and working class proletariat. So that's what we're
for real. And like protracted is like protracted, y'all, like protracted, like long and heavy, like real long. And another part of the armed struggle sections here in this chapter, they talk about how China's war of liberation was so protracted that there were whole generations that only knew war for liberation. Right? Talk about an actual cultural revolution. Talk about an actual change in culture where you have whole generations being born into a society where the only thing they know is a culture of fighting for your freedom. Right? That's how protracted, that's how long these wars can be. That's how long these struggles are. Right? They're not instant. They are long and cruel and bloody sometimes. Right? Like, and of course, like the young lord talk about, like that's something that is inevitable. Of course, we want to avoid, right? Because we want our people to live and be free. But these struggles are long and hard, and it's not enough. Like Chief Shagun was saying, like it's not enough to just have someone else be our leadership and hope that they can bring that to us. We are our true leadership. We are our true leadership. And so, like, it makes me think of what happened in Puerto Rico and Boriken last year with like the Ricky Renuncia campaign. So maybe you might have saw people out there who are watching, and also while you're watching, you should still be sharing. You know what I mean? Like, if you shared it once, you share it again. So share it again. Share it again. But it makes me think of that Ricky Renuncia campaign, which was the governor of Puerto Rico, Ricky Rosselló, who was second generation governor of Puerto Rico. His father was the governor of the island from like during the Clinton years, like 93 to 01. And his son, Ricky Rosselló, became the governor of Puerto Rico, another neocolonial, just a neocolonial sellout governor in the mid-2010s. And after Hurricane Maria, after like the horrible response and horrible lack of care of the people during that, after a bunch of text messages came out, like of high officials that people voted in. People voted for some of these officials, y'all. They had all these texts that revealed that they were talking about the people, like, oh, the dirty people after the hurricane, oh, like talking about like, oh, like, you know, being homophobic, doing all this stuff, right? And like they had all this stuff revealing that, you know, these people ain't shit. And so,
don't give a shit about you. Weird. They don't represent you. Weird. They don't see themselves, right, as part of and tied in with the destiny of the masses of their own people, right? That's what it means to be a sellout. Period.
And so it took the text messages to wake people up to that and the pain of the hurricane. And so, you know, had thousands of people like walking and marching to the La Fortaleza, which is like the White House of Puerto Rico, I guess you could say, right? Like the governor's residence. And they were saying, Ricky Renuncia, Ricky resign, Ricky resign, Ricky resign. And Ricky Rosselló eventually resigned, right? But then all they did was put another neo-colonial sellout in place, Wanda Vasquez, who just was like, yeah, like I'm voting for Trump. Like it's just like crazy that like because they were trying to push for this regime change, trying to push for a new leader instead of looking inward at themselves as their own leaders. All they got another neo-colonial sellout there to sell them out even more, right? Right. And so we have to really make sure, toss out the sellouts, get rid of the sellouts. Yes. Our third principle of unity talks about how, colonialism is the source of our problems, but also the neo-colonial sellouts within our colonized nation. Like, we got to toss them out and get rid of them. They just as bad. We can't have that because all they're going to do is work for what they think is their interest, but it's actually the interest of the bourgeoisie, the interest of the ruling class.
No matter all their multiple intersecting identities, like the title of a great article y'all should check out by CIC called, what is it? Like basically intersectionality is trash. We got to throw it to the sea, right? Not only throw our colonized sellouts, to the sea, but also the theories that they try to give us to explain the world that don't lead us to any type of revolutionary conclusion, right? You can see clearly this whole intersectional, like, type of culture that's being pushed in terms of like reformism leading to these movements where we have the AOC 2024 like and I'm imagining similar things going on in Puerto Rico, like we need more women, disabled, queer, like whatever it is, all of these different symptom or identities that are part of the symptoms of colonialism, but not actually pointing to the core root of it, and all of it leads to the same exact neo-colonial sellouts, right? Sellout tactics and moves that don't take the interest of the masses, of the masses of colonized people into consideration.
Yes, exactly. And we're about to learn again. The people are about to learn again in a couple of days.
Yes,
how elections like don't teach us anything, and don't. Well, they teach us that they're futile. They teach us that they're foolish, right? But that they're not there for us, and they're not there for our actual material interests.
Yeah.
And and that brings us to our last read that back from us, and we'll get read that backs.
Yeah, we want to hear from y'all.
Yeah, and so our last read that back is on the last page of chapter 6, on page 162 in the book, and it says here, now the new PIP. So real quick before we put the quote up, in Puerto Rico, there's 3 main political parties, right? There's the PPD, which is kind of like similar to the Democratic Party here. They favor the current colonial situation that Puerto Rico, Borican, is a free associated state of the United States. Then you have I'm forgetting the 3 letters of the other party, but similar to, it's the statehood party. So the party of that believes that Puerto Rico should be a full U.S. state.
Okay.
And they have the PIP, which they say, which is the Puerto Rican Independence Party, which they say is the political party advocating for the independence of the island.
Right.
The Young Lords knew that was BS, right? The Young Lords knew that a party couldn't operate within the colonial system and somehow get the independence from that system.
Right.
And so, and there was people on the island who thought that as well. And that was the MPI, which was the Movement for Puerto Rican Independence, who had split off from PIP.
Gotcha.
And so here, like the Young Lords say, now the new PIP, so this is the PIP of the 70s, right? The late 60s and early 70s. Now the new PIP says that participating in the elections are only a tactic against the American government. But elections have been a tactic of PIP leaders for the last 20 years. Meanwhile, the United States divided the Puerto Rican nation, forcing 1 million Puerto Ricans to leave Puerto Rico to live enslaved in the ghettos and factories of the United States. Meanwhile, thousands of Puerto Ricans died in the American invasions of Korea and Indochina, Vietnam. Even MPI, that for years had raised a political stand of boycotting elections, they boycotted almost all the elections of the 1960s, is now talking about going to the elections in 1972 in your united front would be a progressive move. If that united front raised the struggle against our oppressors to a stronger level. But a united front to go to the elections would be a step backward for our people. We can't fool ourselves, nor can we fool our people. We have the example of the Socialist Party in Santiago Iglesias Pantin's treason of the interests of working class Puerto Ricans. We do not need any more experiences with the vote. No more foolery. For real, y'all. Like hashtag no more foolery. Like hashtag no more foolery, y'all.
Hashtag no more foolery up in the comments. If you are sick and tired of these bullshit elections, you sick and tired, people coming in your ear, trying to get you to vote, to make some type of change, you know, that it's a tactic, that it's harm reduction, right? Like, y'all, this is a tactic of reformism. It's a tactic of neo-colonial selloutism. It's a tactic of I don't believe in the power of the poor and working class colonized masses united to overturn this whole entire thing. That's all it's a tactic of. It's never a actual tactic of revolution, right? Like, we've seen that it failed over and over. Like you were saying, Chief Oju, like they went backward. Like they were united to being like, F these, you know, the elections, they were boycotting them. And then there we go, hashtag no more foolery. But then they decided for whatever reason to go backward toward a tactic that they knew didn't work.
Exactly. So they like MPI saw that it wasn't working. They boycotted elections, actively did actions around boycotting elections, and then said, man, you know what? Like what we're doing isn't working. And the only reason they could say that is because they don't have the working class Puerto Ricans' interest in mind, right? They only have their own individualistic interest, whether it's individualistic as an organization or individualistic as people on their own. They even got propaganda on NBA 2K. I'm so done. Really? They dropping threes and say vote. I'm so done.
Sure.
Yeah, no more foolery.
It's so in your face. And like what I love about it, I love that line where it says like you can't fool. It said you can't fool someone. It said you can't fool the people. You know, like it's like for only so long can you continue to get, you know, like the masses fooled by this like nonsense, you know, and like our people are waking up, like that first line said, or that one of the second read that backs we read about the, you know, the teacher teaching that revolutionary ish in the classroom and the students, you know, awakening to that consciousness. And, you know, even as the system clamped down, it was like, you can't, you know, put back to sleep and awaken people. And our people are waking up across the world. You know, indigenous peoples are rising up, you know, and challenging these neo-colonial governments, these colonial governments. You know, we're done with the sellouts. We're done with the tomfoolery, you know.
For real. It's just disrespectful to our people. And the young lords understood it was disrespect. Like, don't take a people moving forward and push them back. Right. Your own people. The only people we should be pushing back are the colonizers. The only people that we should be undermining are the colonizers. Those are the only people that deserve any kind of pushback. Do not push back your own people. It's just disrespectful to not look back in history, to not be a historical dialectical materialist, to not look back in history, see if something wasn't working, to then do it again. That makes no sense, right? So if you see that elections aren't working, which is what our people see here in the United States, right? Like I was out in outreach yesterday out on the west side of Chicago on Madison Street, which burned down in the 1968 rebellion after King was murdered, right? And the whole a few miles of the street burned down, and there were empty lots. Tell me why in 2020 those lots are still empty. Those are still empty lots. How many presidents did you have to elect between 1968 and 2020 to fill that lot and think that lot was going to get filled? To think that you were actually going to see something in your community that you could have control over, that you can benefit from? How many presidents do you have to choose in order to think that it's going to happen? It ain't going to happen with them. It's only going to happen with us. And those lots. I mean, again, that's when I say us. The lots are the land that belongs to the people of that land, right? So how long is it going to take for us to realize that we need our own power and our control to make sure that all land goes back to its rightful stewards, to its rightful stewards, right? So those lots on Madison Street, y'all, those do belong to the indigenous people of this land. Yes. So in order for you to get control over those lots in your land in Africa that aren't being built, that are being stolen, that are being exploited and used for the interest and for the resources for other people, then you're going to have to say no more presidents, no more foolery, right? You have to let go of this system. Let it go. It ain't done nothing. Madison Street, Madison Street, it look exactly the same this year, right? You know, look exactly the same. We need all people who saw that in the 60s and the people who see it now to really unite with Black Hammer, to unite with their own interests, to unite against colonialism, right? Yes. We're going to unite for ourselves and unite against colonialism. So you join Black Hammer, blackhammer.org/join.
Hey.
That exactly here. So like, why would we look back and see that something didn't work? Why would we do it again? Don't be the fool. No more foolery. Don't be the fool.
And be angry, right? Be angry at the audacity, right, of these sellouts and of this colonial, mouthpieces to have the audacity to see exactly that, the clear material, like consistency with like nothing changing, and to try to sell you the same bullshit, like to try to sell that again, like be angry at that and believe in yourself as a leader in your community to point that out, to again, like fan the flames of that consciousness that our people have of like, none of this shit, none of this is right. None of this is right. None of this is changing. None of this is changing. None of this is working. None of this is working. Right. And it's your job out here, to join revolutionary organization and to be a leader within your community, to draw them in to organization, to self-determination, to the power of us, coming together, putting our collective brilliance together, and really build structures and systems and programs that really tap into our power and that show our people, the potential that we have, if we really really unite with that power, unite with and disunite with colonialism, like completely. It's got to be a clear line. It's got to be a clear line.
Yes, it's got to be a clear line. We have to act on that line. So don't just be right. Act on what's right. Right. And so I guess, like, that means the participation of the people. So let's get some participation of the people right now. If you got to read that back for us, what were some quotes that stuck out to you in chapters 5 and 6? Let us know. Tell us. I know I saw read that back earlier from somebody. It might have been Sir. But here, Taliba got one. Puerto Ricans, wherever they are, whether in the United States or in Borican, constitute a colony, and their oppression is that of a colonial people suffering from the hands of El Patron. Decisions affecting their lives are not made by them, but for them by the U.S. institutions, schools, jobs, churches, and police stations are the institutions that govern the lives and deaths of Puerto Ricans. Yeah, that's like the third principle of unity, like colonialism is the root of all our problems, right? It's all those institutions they make are literally just for our death and destruction and for their profit and their livelihood.
Right. It points me to that first principle of unity of why we need it. What it just laid out for me is the dictatorship of white power, right, over our land, lives, labor, and resources. Like I said, through our schools, through our jobs, et cetera, right. All of those institutions are controlled from the outside by an alien nation, whose entire MO is to, be this parasitic machine that continues to exactly that dictate the lives and deaths of Puerto Ricans and all colonized people. And I appreciate what it laid out there in the beginning, that it's not just the colony, it's not just the Puerto Ricans on the island itself that are colonized, and that but that the Puerto Ricans and Borican in the United States themselves are colonized. Right? That it's all colonized people, no matter where we are on planet Earth. There's this system of white power, colonialism, capitalism, imperialism that has dictatorship. That it's not this thing of like, it's not this thing of being able to, or it's not this difference of like being a U.S. A person, being in the belly. You're in the belly of the beast, or you're on your indigenous lands, and obviously the indigenous lands here in the belly of the beast belong to the indigenous peoples here. But we have these diasporas of African, Asian, indigenous peoples all over the world. That it makes no difference, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Whether or not you're in the belly of the beast or outside of it, we, belong to and remain connected, even as they try to disconnect us and, buy us into this whole, you can assimilate into the system, or you have some special, privileges that you can use to be able to get your people to assimilate into the system. Yeah. Nah, none of it's worthwhile.
No, none of it's worthwhile, and it only gears our people toward destruction. I'm thinking of how the schools. We talked about schools at the beginning. How the schools are institutions like that. My grandma, who was in Puerto Rico growing up, like I said before in other BookTrap, she only went to school up to 3rd grade. But by that time, the U.S. was fully into the island, into the institutions of the island. And in the schools, they gave them for lunch for the first time peanut butter. And she had told the story to my mom, and my mom told it to me, that they gave the students peanut butter, and it literally made everyone sick. right? Like the students were throwing up because they all of a sudden had this new food introduced to them because America said this is what you're supposed to eat, right? And so like they have all these little sick children being forced to consume what the colonizers telling them to consume, literally, right? And just like how much the colonizers has an interest in just making sure that that their control is there. That it's only that there's no, you can't even have your own food, and literally to not have it makes you sick. To not have it makes you like you really have to reject it.
Right. And they try to train, I mean, and bringing that like, and not just metaphor, because like you said, it is concrete and material. Like literally, they had control over their food and what they ate. But you know, like the colonial system tries to train us to not. It like tries to train us to not, reject that. You know, it trains us to just stomach it and allow that poison to just like fester. We have to like win again our people to a consciousness of the. And not just it's like we have a consciousness of, and the masses have a consciousness of, like, you know, the poison of colonialism. But we have to actually train the muscles, you know, through collective organization to be able to like collectively purge this, you know, like purge all that is not in our interests, like, you know, to gain nourishment from.
I like that. No, I like that. Like we have to purge everything that we cannot gain nourishment from. I like that metaphor a lot. Because lay back. Okay, then another read that back. Already we've seen the reaction of the people who control the school system. They're scared. Principals who say they're for freedom of speech will now allow young lords or black men. This is kind of close to Chegun's quote. Or Black Panthers talk with our people. Why is it that they're so afraid of words? What are they trying to hide? Sisters and brothers are being hassled and threatened with suspension for organizing, postering, leafletting, and selling literature at the different high schools in El Barrio and the South Bronx. Yeah, like. That's the thing. The schools don't want to. The schools are a part of the colonial institutions, right? So just as much as the pigs are going to stop one way of revolution from coming in the street, just as the same way as the politicians are going to stop revolution from coming in the streets, the schools do the same. Right.
Right. And they are scared, like it said, of those, what are they scared of? Words? Yeah, they're scared of words and revolutionary politic and revolutionary political education, because that is also, a weapon, right? Like, I mean, the two chapters that we read today were about education and armed struggle. And it's really important to see the importance of those two things linked together, right? Like, it may not be, the Black Panthers and the Young Lords probably weren't showing up to the schools all armed and like, all right, kids, like, here's your guns and da-da-da-da-da. No, all they were doing was speaking that revolutionary talk. But it's not just, all they were doing. Like, that is an extremely powerful like step that needs to be taken, that political education, that reintroducing of our revolutionary history and culture. And again, just to drive home the point, we see how these colonial school systems react to any inch of that, any inkling of that being seeped into these, indoctrination machines. Like it rejects it, very aggressively.
Yes. Yeah, yes.
Right on. Those are some good read that backs. Y'all got any more for us?
I was like, any more read that backs? You could take at least one more, y'all.
While we wait, let's get another donation up in here. We are almost at our goal, y'all. I don't know if we broke 100. I think we're at 97 last I checked. But the goal is 150. So if anyone's got a big old donation up in here, that would be fantastic.
Yes, if you don't got to read that back, maybe you can drop $5. But we also like at least one more read that back. What's another quote that people found in these chapters that stuck out to them?
Reading along though. I'm glad y'all are reading along.
Yeah, and if you are joining us for the first time today and want to keep reading along, yes. We have the PDF. We have in our library. It's Liba pledge $5. Okay, thank you to Liba. I love our people, y'all.
For real, we out here building it up every single day.
Yes, and so if you go to our virtual library,
there it is. Right.
You can you can get into this reading. You can catch up, and you can get into any of the other books we've had and other book chats as well.
Yeah, go to blackhammer.org/library, and then you could click the link there to our virtual library and check out in the revolutionary section. You'll see the Young Lords of Reader. You could download that, follow along each week. I believe next week we're going to be tackling chapter 7. Let me double check. I forget if we're doing 7 or 7 and 8.
Oh, while you figure that out, Colibri pledged $5 too. Hey, thank you, Colibri.
Thank you. Bang, bang. Every dollar counts, y'all. We building a city for Black and brown people.
And the next chapter, y'all, is gonna be interesting. It's interesting. It's women in the revolution as well. So if you were here for the movie trap, you saw how the women of the Young Lords Party were saying we need a caucus because we're not in any leadership positions, nor do we feel like we're being heard. Well, in Black Hammer, we'll talk about this next Sunday. We don't have to worry about that because we have our second principle of unity, right? That all colonized people are equal, regardless of age, gender, sexuality, biracial, multiracial identity, ability. So, so be ready to talk about that. So if you're ready to get into that conversation next week, make sure you get to blackhammer.org/library.
Yes, we saw. Now I'm going to get into a little bit of that conversation, but we saw at the end, the documentary it talked about. Oh, I'm gonna pause there. All right. Let's get this read that back in. This is from Betty Hess. Thank you. It says, when the American Army landed in Guanaca in 1898, they brought with them not only soldiers but teachers, administrators, geologists, biologists, etc. When they got there, they threw away history books written by Puerto Ricans and had gringos rewrite our history. They had psychologists study us day in and day out to prove that Puerto Ricans are a docile, passive people who go around saying, ay, bendito, and do nothing more than have babies, play the conga, la bilita, etc., etc. Yes. Yeah. Hey, read that back. This is actually what we use for our central PE this week, right? Mm-hmm. Speaks that dual thing that we're talking about here, education and armed struggle. And we're talking about that revolutionary, education and revolutionary armed struggle. But we know that the dictatorship of white power is also through education and armed struggle and dictatorship, right? It's not just the soldiers that they bring in to maintain, the rule of the white ruling class, but it's also, they said, the teachers, the biologists, the administrators, right? Like to build a certain sort of system of knowledge, about culture and about science that is antithetical to and completely against the needs and the interests of the masses of colonized, poor, and working class people. Like it's that ideological control is just as important as that physical domination and dictatorship, and they work hand in hand, which is why we need to, in our fight against white power, work hand in hand. Our revolutionary political education and understanding the need for armed struggle.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because our people, us Boricuas, our people, we don't just say "ay bendito" all the time. Even though I heard my whole life, "ay bendito." I don't know how many times I heard that said to me. Just because I was looking cute. But it's
like happening all the time. I just gonna.
Our people, have been constantly, decimated and controlled by this. Sorry, I want to acknowledge this. But thank you, Land Back, Megan. It's a wow, an amazing organization. Look at these beautiful people fighting for liberation. Thank you. I know we beautiful. We fighting for liberation. Thank you. I know I'm trying to feel this frohawk. I might have to go. I might have to fight white power in this frohawk. I don't know, y'all. But
come join us. Come join us.
Yeah, come join us, Megan. Yeah, blackhammer.org/join. But yeah, our people, we've been constantly decimated by the colonizers who have done it by bringing these biologists, by bringing all these kinds of tools of colonialism and all these kinds of faces. They have all kinds of faces, and have all come to do one thing, and it's to steal our land and exploit and control our people. And exactly, to get our land, labor, lives, and resources, take it all. And so we have to work it back against them. And it's more than just saying "ay bendito" and saying I'm yo soy boricua para que tú lo sepas. I'm boricua, just so you know. That's like one of the biggest sayings on the island and here in the United States. It's more than just knowing you're boricua. It's about to know that you're boricua. It has to mean to know that you have to have your land back. To know that you're Boricua needs to mean that you have control over your resources and over your lives. So let's make Boricua mean something new. Let's make being indigenous mean this, right? Because it's always meant that. That's what our ancestors knew it meant. It meant to fight back against those who dare to control them. So in the spirit of our ancestors throughout especially throughout this whole month, where we're gonna have Thanksgiving at the end of this month, this like holiday to celebrate this genocide of indigenous peoples throughout these continents. It's just, we have to know that what it means to be Boricua has to mean to fight to get our land back. That's what it has to mean.
Of all colonized people, right? And all colonized nations have to recognize that, like, right? Like I represent, the African nation, and I always say, I represent the African nation by way of Nigeria, by way of the Yoruba, right? Like, and there's all of these, different parts of our colonized identity, but we have to see that identity as have to see that identity as fundamentally connected with all other colonized, identities. Our identity is being colonized. That's the material condition that determines who we are. And so, forging that unity of all colonized people, and learning the history of all colonized people, the revolutionary struggles of all colonized people, really gets us to that conclusion of the land question of going, the same thing is going on in all of these different places. And the same tactics have been used in all of these different places, and some have worked, some haven't. We got to look at the ones that work, take them forward, toss out the ones that haven't, and take it forward.
Yes. So forward, y'all. Always forward.
Forward.
Thank y'all, and then make sure to come to our Tuesday rallies.
Yes.
One of the announcement. We have our Tuesday public rallies on Facebook Live. If you're watching Facebook Live now, you just got to come Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, and come watch us here, y'all. Come meet the organization, see what we're about. Learn how to get united with revolutionary action. We're here for that.
Yes. Next Tuesday is that presidential election day, y'all, in the United Snakes. Okay, so we're gonna have a dope rally, really breaking down why we got no interest in participating. Right, we're gonna sit back, relax, build our city, while white power tries to, do this pseudo fight against itself. It's really just strengthening itself to maintain its dictatorship. But come through to the rally, y'all. Like Chief Oju said. What else we got coming up? Let's see. If you are a colonizer and you watching this, we do have a colonizer class for colonizers, #dollars for decolonization. It's actually going on today and every Sunday from here on out, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern, 6 to 8. It's $25 per class. Y'all owe reparations. Every single bit of your wealth and life and experience is determined by this parasitic relationship with all colonized people, and that needs to be reparated. That needs to be healed, and the only way that can be healed and reparated is through your reparations, is through your uniting with the leadership of poor and working class colonized people. You can be on the right side of history, y'all. We got an option for you. We got a class and everything. It's great. The first class was fantastic, so come through. And other colonized people watching this, share that, share this political education, on your Facebook, on your Instagram, on your YouTubes and all of that, but also get them white folk up in this class, y'all. We need that.
Bro, and in this class, we have to make sure that colonizers understand that they have to give back the resources that they stole from us. This is one way they can do it, while also learning about colonialism and anti-colonialism, right? So, hit two birds with one stone. But so share that, and share this BookTrap video with anyone who is a teacher. We talked about schools today. Share this video with anyone who said, like, why aren't you voting? Right? Anyone who told you, why aren't you voting? Drop this video in their DMs, put it on their page, put this on any page you see people talking about the election. The election's in 2 days, y'all. It's in 2 days that we're going to have white power like duking it out for, and it's not going to be pretty, right? It's not going to be pretty. It's never pretty, but it's going to be even less pretty than you might even imagine. So make sure our people are educated. Make sure our people understand what side of the question they have to be on, so that they can organize and unite to fight against the people who are taking this stuff. All right?
The side that we are on is the side of anti-colonialism. So if you're ready to join that anti-colonial side, that anti-colonial fight, join today, blackhammer.org/join. Be on the right side of leading your people, our people, to freedom, to liberation. We can do it, y'all.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see y'all next week. We're reading chapter 7 and 8. Checked 7 and 8. It's going to be on the women in the revolution and the garbage can, or the garbage, the carbon offensive. There it is. Great. So we'll see y'all next week. Bring your Read That back. Keep the donations flowing, keep the shares going, and enjoy your week.
All right. Man back up.